worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has control over all dominions, who is the Most High, the one worthy of all praise, and to whom has control over all things. And I hope we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the blessings of Allah be upon him, is the slave servant of Allah and his final prophet. And I greet everyone in the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We meet again. We come together for the sole purpose of purifying the heart of all of the stenches of this dunya, of this world, all of the contamination of this world. It has become perfectly apparent that from week to week, the world is, or the people of the world are sinking into a deeper hole of transgression and iniquity. There is but one way to come out of this hole. There's only one way. And that is by remembering the source of our origin and coming back to the holistic health of being a human being. The human being is straying further and further away from their nature, their natural fitra, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the human being in the perfect nature in that the human being willfully submits to Allah if it is so inclined. But it also has the capacity to rebel against Allah. That is why the human being is above the station of angel if it chooses to submit, and below the level of animal if it chooses to rebel. So the purpose of us coming together at the Mukashfi Institute is to collectively engage in a process of the purification of the heart. Well, the Prophet ﷺ has said there is an organ within the body. If it's whole and healthy, the body is whole and healthy. And if it is diseased, the body is diseased, and that is the heart. This heart we're talking about, even on a physical level, if you go to the doctor will tell you that if your heart is not functioning correctly, everything else in your body is going to be out of sync. So even on a physical level, this applies. That if the heart is healthy, the rest of the body is usually healthy. But we're talking about that spiritual heart, that place that is the seat or the root of all that is good within the human being or all that is negative. So we come together for the purpose of purification of the heart. And when the Prophet ﷺ, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ described the process of purifying the heart, he said it's like polishing a pot that has become rusted. And you have to polish that pot until you're able to see the reflection, the mirror in the pot, so that you can look in the pot and see your reflection. The Sahabas radiallahu anhum replied, O Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we understand how you cleanse and how you polish a heart, how you polish a pot, but how do you polish a heart? He said there is but one way to polish a heart, and that is by the remembrance of Allah. Right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that in the salat, in the prayer, there is a means, there is a way of keeping us away from evil and indecencies. But Allah follows that up in that same ayat by saying there's nothing greater than the remembrance of Allah. So yes, we all must make the 5 salats. As the Prophet ﷺ was asked, what is Islam? The first thing he said was, Islam is to testify that there's no God but Allah, Muhammad is the messenger. Then he said, and make the 5 salats in their appointed time. We are told by the Prophet ﷺ that the first act of worship that we will be questioned about on the day of judgment will be our prayer, will be our salat. And if our obligatory prayers are not correct, then our sunnah prayers will reinforce it. And if our sunnah prayers are lacking, then our extra nawafil, supererogatory prayers will reinforce our sunnah prayers. So we cannot overemphasize the importance of salat, because Allah says in the salat there is a means of keeping us away from evil and indecent actions. But then Allah follows it up by saying, but there's nothing greater than the remembrance of Allah. We have to make salat 5 times a day at their appointed time. But between those times, between Fajr to Dhuhr to Asr, Asr to Maghrib, Maghrib to Isha, Isha back to Fajr, we should still remain in the remembrance of Allah. Our lives should be a continuance of remembrance. In other words, there should be no gaps. This is the goal that we at the Perpetual Institute that we're aiming for. We're aiming to develop a spiritual consciousness in which our whole lives become a reflection of an Islamic personality, where our whole being reflects the fact that we are attempting, by Allah's permission, Allah, with Allah's permission, to establish a continuing of remembering throughout the day and night. There are many ways to do this. We know that the first mentioned extra prayer of the highest importance is the prayer that's known as tahajjud. That's the prayer that's made usually after Isha, usually after midnight, and between midnight and the Fajr. It is preferably to make that prayer, it's preferable to make that prayer after having some sleep. But if you're unable to sleep, it's still permissible to make the prayer.